What is up, Swing Collective? Good to be back again. Been a while since I've had a chance to see all your faces. Bird, be smooth, Izzy, always a pleasure to our fives and tens of listeners out there. Glad to be with you guys tonight. Um, yeah, man, been a long time. A lot of fun golf stuff going on in our lives. I think I know me and Bird have spent two separate weeks here in the past month in Myrtle Beach. I think you got a probably chance to. I know you were just there this week, so you probably haven't had a chance to talk about that on here yet. So,
Man, I'm just happy to see all these faces, man. It's
yeah,
a
looking
crowd
forward to
all
that.
back together.
A lot of smiles, a lot of guys happy to talk about golf on what is it, Wednesday night here. So,
That's right.
um, yeah, I spent the week before last with the family down in Myrtle Beach. Uh, Bird, I know you're a Strands nerd like me, so to get out to be able to play True Blue was another one checked off the list. Man, I had a blast there. Phenomenal course. I thought it was typical Strands kind of
Yes, it
um,
is.
layout. There are a lot of holes where um, things kind of looked harder than they were. A lot of holes that seemed easier. I think of the par fives there, and
Mhm.
you look at it on paper and you're like, man, this should be an easy par five. And then you get done with the hole and you have a six on the card, and you're like, why? How is that a six? How did I
Yeah.
make a six there when I hit three or four really really good shots? So, um, loved it there. Um, Bird, I think you've had a chance to play out there before, right? Out at
Man,
True
I love
Blue.
it. Yeah, dude. I played True Blue last year, and I played Caledonia right next door, another Strands design last week. So I know what you're saying, man. I'm a big Mike Strands fan. Um, the 8 courses in his golf architecture career taken too soon from us,
Hmm.
uh, due to cancer. Out of the 8, I guess there are, I guess nine courses. There are 6 that are public, and I've played 4 of the 6, and the 2 I haven't played are the 2 closest to my house. And I'm going to fix that this year, and that might be a great swing collective trip for us all to congregate at Royal New Kent and Stonehouse and play the 2 in Virginia. They're 30 or 45 minutes away from each other. Be a great little 2-day event for the swing collective. But how'd you do it, True Blue, man? How did it end up for you?
I thought I played pretty well. I mean, I was hoping to break 90. I think I shot a 90, 93, 94 there, and um, hit the ball well, but having some early season, um, just kind of, which I've started to get dialed in a bit, just control issues. I feel like I'm making the best contact I
Mhm.
ever have on the ball. I've really tried to focus on three swing thoughts in terms of just, keeping my lead arm straight, making sure I'm swinging through the ball, and making sure that I'm getting good rotation. I think getting through the ball has been the most important for me. I've definitely noticed an increase in distance, and I was having a problem. I think over rotating a little bit. Started to get that under control now, and really happy with how my game's progressing. Um, had a chance to play there. Played at Prestwick as well when I was out in Myrtle Beach.
Great track.
Yeah, had a blast there. I love the touch of the bagpiper on
Mhm.
18 as you're
Mhm.
coming in. I thought that was really cool.
Right.
Shot about the same there. I really I left there feeling really good about where my swing was though, and I was back for 3 or 4 days. And then out to Turning Stone Resort in central New York for our annual Ryder Cup that I have with 27 of my closest friends and myself. So that was this past weekend. And listen, I know it's the end of May here. Um, being a resident of upstate New York for the past 15 to 17 years, I don't even know how long it is now. I can confirm, and it was reaffirmed this weekend, that you can have what feels like four seasons of weather at the
Mhm.
end of May in one weekend here in upstate New York. We were 85 and sunny. On Friday, we played. Our first round was at Kaluuya. Uh, there's 2 holes at Kaluuya that give me nightmares. Literally, every year as we get closer to this trip, I start thinking about hole 11. I think it's hole 11. Um, and hole 6. And again, they did not disappoint. They left me just as miserable as I assumed they would. But we were 85 degrees and sunny, beautiful day there.
Mm.
Um, got done, went up, had a fantastic steak dinner up at the Turning Stone Steakhouse. Which, if you guys are steak guys, which I think we all are here,
Gotta be.
gotta make a point to get
Harry's
out
last
there.
night in Nashville.
Did that. Went down, played some roulette, met some other boys there. Got up 800 pretty quick, went to bed and said that I'm not going back to a table the rest of the weekend. I always leave that place down significant amounts of money. So I was like, I'm leaving once up.
There you go.
Woke up the next day, we played 36 at Shenandoah, and we went from 85 in the morning. We finished the day after an hour hail delay. It was about 50 degrees in the rain. And then everyone here on the collective knows is aware of my experience on Sunday. I'm still having PTSD. Just telling the boys here how I got set back about 150 bones because I had to buy a hoodie to put on under my quarter zip that I had on under my raincoat because it was 50 degrees with 40-mile-an-hour winds and sideways rain for 3 hours.
Man.
We got through 13 holes. It was a battle of attrition. We went into Sunday. The red team was tied with the blue team. The other twosome in my group, that match closed out on 13. The guy I was playing said, "That's it, I'm done." I had him down 2. Broke him down mentally. He couldn't take any more. He went in, conceded the match, and the red team, glad to say, we retained the cup this year, back-to-back-to-back champions by 1 point.
Ooh, that stung.
So there's a lot of unhappy people about a concession occurring
Yeah.
for
Early.
a key point
Yeah,
in that match.
Well, it sounds like the blue team has an opening for next year. That's a lot of scratch to go on
Hey,
and lose like that. So anybody want to play for the blue team? I hear they need a man.
that's right. Yeah, blue team may need a man out there.
That's rough, man.
But
Dude, I'm a lot of things, but I would have crawled down the 18th fairway as long as you hadn't already closed me out. There's no way you go get me.
exactly. That was my feeling, was the same way. There's no way I'm
brother.
conceding this match. I don't care what happens, where I'm hitting the ball.
That's right.
And surprisingly, I was shocked at how well I was actually able to hit the ball in those conditions. I started off the first 3 or 4 holes with all this gear on, and I just couldn't get through the ball, and couldn't grip the club. And finally, something just clicked in my head, and I was like, just chill, And I started getting back to the swing thoughts that I talked about earlier of just, hey, maybe I can't fully rotate, but I can still get through a ball. I can still keep my head down. And I started hitting the hell out of the ball.
Probably start swinging a little easier too to make sure you grip, and that's the key, brother, right there,
right?
man.
Yeah. I was down too early and
champion on this call, man.
Yeah. I was down too early, fought my way back. Was down 2 through 6. I won the front 9. I won 3 in a row, and I won 5 of 7 holes and was able to close the match out. And a lot of really hard courses. I was able to take that. And my Tuesday night league has started back here, and I went out there last night and beat some ass again. So I'm out. I'm out this year. I'm out to bring that handicap down and take some people's money. So if anyone's bored and wants to lose a couple bucks, come to Saratoga, upstate New York.
That's great.
Yeah, I may take you up on that.
Let's go whenever you're ready.
I tell you, man, I'm right behind you. Literally, because I was at Myrtle this past weekend, played Kings North up in almost on the way to Conway up in Myrtle, and then played Caledonia, which still is my most favorite course. It's yet to be unseated, and finished up at a real gem, the Die Club up at Barefoot in North Myrtle. 3 great rounds. Noah, one of the members of the collective, was there with me, celebrating his birthday, and we've got our own little mano y mano competition. 12 rounds, match play. Winner of the round gets a point. 6.5 retains our cup that we play for. I'm out to a 3-0 lead. I didn't know you could beat a man 7-6, but that's what happened at Caledonia. I had him 7-6. It was a good round, but more than that, it was about the fellowship. We had absolutely perfect weather. Some of the hotter rounds that I've played, especially at Kings North the first day, it was north of 90 degrees. I don't know if it was like that for you down there, Ando, but it was a little bit of a struggle for me to get through that round. I was able to do it. Wasn't gonna be no concession like your boy on the blue team, but got through it. But it was hot. I did discover Garage Beer, and they don't sponsor the Swing Collective. Although if y'all want to sponsor the Swing Collective on Apple Podcasts and YouTube, leave us a message, ring us up. Be happy to rep you guys. Right now, I'm gonna do it for free. Garage Beer, 2 flavors, beer flavored and lime. They actually have beer flavored beer, and that's what it says on the can. And it tastes exactly like beer. It was made.
Big fan of the Garage Beer. I've had a few of those in my life. It's
yes, sir. God love them, man. So that was good. Got through that. I don't want to channel my inner John Daly, but what the Bird has learned is you have a few early in the round. Everything gets loosened up, and then you just don't take it to that point of no return where you can go a little too far. But it didn't happen at Myrtle. We had a good time celebrating Noah's birthday and 3 great rounds of golf. Before that, I know everybody, the previous episode, heard about getting to go out to Vic National, where B and I got to go together with a couple other friends. So he'll talk about that and some of his other travels. But I did promise you guys in our pre-episode production meeting that was a little bit of show and tell. I didn't win $800 at the roulette wheel. Sadly, roulette's my game. I haven't been in a long time. I did not win any money from Noah. Spent a lot of money on that trip. Didn't win a lot of money. But when I was at Vic National, we finished the second day with a little skins game.
We did. Oh no!
And listen, it's not often. I'm gonna show you, brothers. Not only did I take some cash at Victoria National, but it's autographed.
Nice.
by our man B Smooth. So B, this is going to get framed and put down in my studio simulator, and I will cherish this. I will never be broke because no matter what happens, I will always have $5 that I won playing golf with one of my best friends. So until such day that I have to sign one and give it back to him, and knowing B, it won't be a $5. It might be a little bit more, man. But since you're talking about the state of your game, man, congratulations starting off hot. I have not done that. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but I literally think that I have found the key to the problem, and I think I found it today. And if not for my love of my collective brethren here, I'd be down in the simulator right now trying it rather than recording episode 12 that we're going to put up on Apple and YouTube tomorrow. But man, I am making the best contact that I have ever made playing golf. Like I am hitting every club on the screws, and more often than not, they are going dead right. And I'm a left-handed golfer, so for the rest of you guys, imagine if you were hitting it dead left. All right, I don't mean slicing, I don't mean hooking, I mean just long and straight, dead right, 30 yards.
Over rotation.
Right of the flag. I have tried, man, don't over rotate. What are you doing? Everything. And I believe I did some swings just in the office today. I found a video. I am positive that while my posture is good over the ball with my forward shaft lean I'm pretty neutral with my body, or I'm leaning a little bit to the right, which for me is toward the target. I'm on the opposite side of the ball, you fellas. And with the shaft lean, the body's leaning too.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mr. Clay Ballard, one of the YouTubers that I really pay a lot of attention to, is when I'm coming through, that's causing me to separate that back elbow, which will absolutely cause you to come over the top, cast the club, and pull it left in his videos, which I know I got to say everything backwards because I hit from the correct side of the ball. So what he advocates is you actually, like a driver swing, but even with your irons, angle that spine just a little bit behind the ball, even though you're going to get a little bit of forward shaft lean, and it's going to promote you to keep that shoulder tucked and your elbow tucked.
Mm-hmm.
When you rotate, he said you can rotate about as hard and fast as you want if you keep that back shoulder tucked and that back elbow tucked, and you will hit the ball straight. I took a few practice swings in my office, and I could see as my arms were coming through my way, just ever so slightly coming over the top, would take it right. Tried it his way, and damn, I tell you, man, it looked like I was swinging straight. So if this was any other night, but Swing Collective night, I would be out there maybe solving the biggest problem that I have right now. So I am as high and geeked up as I can possibly be about this week. We'll see what happens. But if I can get that under control, man, my ball striking is the best it's been. I still want to take about 7 strokes off my handicap this year. And this is going to be my chance to do it. So I will report back next week. It'll either be me walking on sunshine or Katrina in the waves, or I'm just going to sit there and shake my head and say, nope, that wasn't it. So we'll see what happens.
So I do want to throw a little anecdote out about an earlier reference you made when we were talking about the delicious garage beer, right? And talking about channeling John Daly and, maybe having a few two in the round, but not letting it get away from you. So I will say on the trip I mentioned, the Turning Stone trip, I went 3-0-1. The one match that I tied,
Okay.
I'll go back a little bit. So that we played 36 holes on Saturday, and I played like dog shit for 9 holes, to the point where on the 9th hole, I put myself in timeout in the cart when all the guys went to putt. I said, I need to be in timeout. And I caught up with the cart girl during that time. I started throwing down a few transfusions, a few beers.
Okay. All right.
And listen, shot a 42 on the back on a very tough golf course. So I found the answer, right? So we got to keep this train rolling. And we had, we had 18 more to play that afternoon. Went out, played 8 holes. Me and my partner were up 2. The storms came in the afternoon at about 2 o'clock. We went back to the clubhouse again with 27 of my other friends. And everyone's eating lunch. And I walked up to Chris Pollock, one of my friends. I said, I don't know what you guys are doing. I have the answer. Liquid lunch. Right. That was the answer. I didn't foresee an hour and a half rain delay. And that liquid lunch turned into a very heavy liquid lunch. And we went down 3 very quickly when we got back out on the golf course.
Yeah.
Now, I will say we fought back and tied the match. We were dormy with 3 holes left. I made the decision about 3 holes before, maybe I should give up on this plan and start reeling it back in. And we were able to pull out the tie. But to your point, Byrd, yeah, there is a line there. Even when you're on a boys trip, sometimes it's not the best idea to keep that train rolling.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Now, Izzy and Be Smooth, what's going on in your golfing lives?
Let's go with Be Smooth.
Well, look, after he just showed the $5 bill that he earned, which I'm amazed. Number one, happy belated and big shout outs to Noah, who at least in the big ups a few weeks back said I could make it to single digit.
he did.
we'll pick that up in a moment. But at least, and I would have suspected you to spend that $5 on him, but hey. But also probably could bring back to you at our one of our other stomping grounds, Ballyhack, where on the 18th hole I handed you at least 20 to 25 times that amount on a game of snake, standing over an 8-foot putt and didn't make it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want people to think we're high rollers and gamblers at the same time. Things happened.
That's right.
But yeah, number one, and kind of like Ando, just been out for a bit and excited to see you guys. And there's been some golf adventures. And Byrd, even as you mentioned it, and Ando, as you were sending pictures of the Ryder Cup, it's a funny thing. You put your golf bags on a plane, you fly somewhere, and there's just sort of this expectation there's going to be pristine weather. And that didn't happen for us at Victoria National, which actually a good buddy of ours just told us that Vic National is now the 18th ranked hardest course in the country. So it's a tough track, but it's fun. It's I won't say fair, but it's definitely a tough course, but it really is really fun. And it dropped down in the top 100 rankings, but the weather just never fully cooperated. I think we might have got 8 holes of no rain with sun. But Ando, to your point, being down with a few holes left with at least a sliver of hope, I think I would have played on. So maybe I'll be on blue next year. But, it's funny, though, at the end of 36, when we're all kind of waterlogged and soaked, this is how much that group loved golf. We went out and played until they called us in. And that's just for the love of the game. So weather always has a say. But, for me, if you have a chance to play, you play. But outside of Vic National, I was actually invited out here this past week to Palm Springs. I know, talking about weather, pristine, desert golf, which I'm now falling in love with, even though, at 95, it's probably playable. At 105, 115, who knows?
Right.
But we were out at Bighorn and got to play 18, 36, and then another 18. Amazing place. I know there's some stuff out there about it being one of the top private courses, and that's not necessarily a big dog statement. It was really just a special place. And when you're there in the clubhouse and you see the names, and I won't do name dropping, you just realize that when people love golf, we all put our money, resources, and time into this. My wife supports it because even Ando, as we'll talk about the mental side of golf, she says you're always better when you come back from a golf trip. And you're always better when you come down here and hit the simulator. You're always better. There's something, it's pretty cathartic. It's pretty cleansing. It's meditative in a lot of ways. And then when you put competition on top of it, it just fires up all those things that make us, men, if we want to go that route, or human. It just brings out that primal piece. And what one of the guys who actually had the membership there, he said, you've got to be one of the most joyful golfers I've ever seen, which I said, look, that's probably my superpower, why I get all these invites, because I'm easy to play with. I play well enough. I mean, Ando, I shot a 92 at the Mountains course and then a 98 on the Canyons course. But I had 2 of the 36 holes times 2 days, 72 holes. I had 2 stretches of 42 on 9, and then you do a 50 on a 9 or something like that. So it's, if I play a 9-hole round and just judge it on that, I'm like, no, I'm capable if I can extend that to 18 holes. And look, that's part of the elixir, part of the snake oil that we get as people that love this game. It perpetually fuels you to keep playing it, perpetually fuels you to try to be better. So whether it's Harvey Pinnock or Rob or Bob Brotella, the mental side, so maybe the swing juice is maybe part of just the fact that all of a sudden the mind steps away. Because I always say, well, when I shot the 42, what was I thinking? And you'd be proud, Byrd. I pulled out the driver. And and for 8 of the gentleman that was there, he was 70 years old, former executive for AT&T. It's his membership. He said, man, look, you have a joy for the game. He says, but play, just play.
Right.
And there's a bit of that, as they say in the psychology of it, the law of detachment. But You don't want your ball to be flying off into the desert thicket because I know what my driver's going to do. But somehow you suppress that sort of negative thought, the stuff we talk about all the time, Bird. And the driver actually came alive.
All right.
And now, not for every swing, and there were some of the disastrous outcomes that I've normally come to expect, but they weren't self-fulfilling disastrous swings. I'm like, no, I'm going to hit this thing 9 times. There were a couple of holes that just didn't warrant a full driver, so I went back to my trusty 7-wood off the tee, 210, 220, straight down the middle, laser. And then I end up having 180 in. So there's usually where the proximity to the hole problem comes up.
Right.
But it's all about getting that game to come together. And but this guy, he's 70 years old. He's a 5. And we played from 6,500 yards, and it was the smoothest swing I've seen for someone that age. And, kind of like a Gary Player, he's nimble, he's flexible. He wasn't in the greatest shape. He just had full control of his swing and his body. And I thought, at 70, he's moving this ball around this course this way. You're never going to outpower or overpower. So it was just a model for me of what your game can evolve to, because that's just a decade away from me. So, I always talk about it, mobility, flexibility, stability, and strength. But he was as much just flexibility and mobility, and he just had full command of his swing, hit a perfect little baby draw every time, putted lights out. And again, when you're witnessing that, and it's in essence a recreational player that obviously spends a lot of time on the course, I just see a future where that's going to be me. But I don't want to be 70 waiting for that either. I want it to happen next week,
Right.
which is our just instant gratification society. But I have been putting in the work, and I am starting to see in snippets the results. And it's a matter of tee to green, and then it's a matter of 9 holes, and then it's a matter of make that 18 holes. And Ando, I was laughing at myself when you mentioned par 5, and you get a 6, you're shocked. I'm thinking I walked up to the tee thinking 6. But some of that psychology has to change. So the mental side of golf is a real thing. And I think now, even as I realize that when you swing true to what your swing is, you can get a great outcome. But as Rotella talks about, golf is not a game of perfect. And it's like every pro says, know your miss. And just make sure your misses aren't the hard left or the hard right as much as possible.
Right.
But looking forward to some additional good golf coming up. I don't have too many specifics planned, but this is that time of year where you expect to start getting invitations from your friends, wink, wink. And I love the idea of Virginia for the collective to get you out to those last 2 Strands courses.
It's fairly central. I know. You're a little high up in New York, Ando, but for most of the collective, it's probably the most central spot.
I just drove literally by there 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If I'm going solo, I'm there in a day. It's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
Be smooth. I will say though, to a point you made, and I read when you're talking about, the mentality, right, of golf. I read a great quote. Luke Donald started off pretty hot at the PGA.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool to see him and Keegan actually, the 2 Ryder Cup captains after the first day in the top 10 of the PGA. But I saw a quote with him after, and he said, yeah, when I'm not the longest hitter out here, my mentality was kind of, let me get a ball out in the fairway, get one pin high, green side, and then let my short game do the work, right? So, it's a completely different mentality from a lot of the PGA guys where they're trying to bomb it down the middle, trying to hit it as close as they can to the pin, right? And he said he thinks that mentality is kind of what allowed him to free himself a little bit from trying to be so precise, and it takes away maybe the big miss. But it's funny because kind of like what you're saying, I used to try and think, well, let me just play bogey golf, and so focused on a number, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you start thinking about the number, and then you're like, well, I want to make a bogey, and now I make a double bogey, but now I'm mad. But I've actually for the past year or so started to have the mentality of let me just hit one straight out there and get something. You know, if it's a par five, or a par four, I'm sorry. I want to be somewhere near the green in two and allow myself to have a chip to get it close. And then maybe I'll make a par. At worst, I'll make a bogey. So instead of focusing on that number of I need to make a five here, I need to make a six because it's a par five, it's let me hit two or three good shots to put myself in a position to make a chip and a putt to have a par or a bogey. And look, I'm not perfect. I'm human. And when I start playing really well, sometimes I get focused on the number. When I start playing really bad, sometimes I get focused on the number. But I feel like when I start to do that, if I can get myself away from thinking about what that number is and just think about hitting those two or three good shots, I start to play better. So yeah, I love your point that you're making.
Well, it's so much psychology out there, and I think you just have to latch on to the thoughts or even the influencers like a Rotella or someone like that you feel like they're speaking a language that I hear. So if think back to our all of our golf journeys, I don't know where it started for you, but there was a point very early on in my golf game where if I played double bogey golf and shot a 108, okay, then that would be a decent score. That like, all right, I got around the course. And then over time, kind of where I am now is, I want to say bogey golf is the floor. Like I'm not going to be below a 90. It very seldom happens that way. I'm in this league in Richmond with the Richmond Amateur Golf League, and I went into the last round that we played. I'm trying to play bogey golf, and with the strokes that I get due to my handicap, that should put me at the top of my flight.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on the 14th tee, exactly on the number that I needed to be on. And then whether it was one too many beverages or I just lost my focus or a combination. I had one guy I was playing with that got a little sideways, and that always affects kind of the mood of the foursome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And anyway, I shot a 98. I just blew up the last 5 holes. I was really disappointed. I was even more I don't know if I was more disappointed or less disappointed when I got the flight results. I was 9th in my flight, got 80 points toward our season-long competition. There's 108 golfers or something right now. I'm sitting in 42nd place. However, what I don't know if I feel better or worse about this, I would have won the flight if I would have shot 4 better. I didn't even need bogey golf in my flight. I needed a 95 or a 94. A 94 would have gotten me all the points in my flight, and I would have won the flight that day. So I'm upset in the sense that, damn, man, like I gave away 4 strokes at the end. I gave away more than 4 strokes at the end. But also, I'm a little bit consoled with we got our next round together in 2 weeks, and the chances are that not very many people in my flight are going to get remarkably better in the next 2 weeks. And I know I played the worst golf that I should be able to play, knock on wood. It can always play worse, but this one swing thing, I'll tell you, I can't wait to get in the simulator and try that. Another thing that Rotella mentioned, B, that I thought was great was, he would work with pros that know, all right, I'm going to make this shot 80% of the time, 90% of the time, whatever it would be. And then in a very tough, pressure-packed moment, they would not execute that shot. And I believe it was Tom Kite. Tom Kite is certainly someone Rotella worked with for his U.S. Open, but if not Kite here, it was someone else. They asked him, did that take away your confidence in hitting that shot? He said, no, it raised it. They're like, tell me how. He said, because I know I'm going to make that shot 90% of the time, and I just had my miss. That means the next shot, I am even more likely to execute it properly because I know I can make that shot 90% of the time. So I still go into it, Ando, and I agree and I disagree with you. Bogey golf is right now where my game is. I want to break bogey golf, but I do agree with you that I shouldn't be up there thinking, all right, I just need to make a 5 on this par 4. Or I need to make if I just hit it somewhere so I can make a 4 on this par 3. That's not what it is. Execute your shots that you know you can execute and play a game with yourself. Yeah. For the next 6 holes, how many pars can I accumulate? Or maybe let me get a birdie look or something. And then pretty soon that whole idea of bogey golf fades away. And you're not thinking about shooting that number. You just think, all right, if I get in a little bit of trouble, how can I make that 5 or that 6? But otherwise, hey, if I execute 2 good shots, like to your point, Ando, if I'm greenside, not to be on the green. If I'm greenside, I trust my new wedges, and I'll talk about that at some point today or on a later episode. We just started our relationship in Myrtle this past week, and it is legit. Like, it is revolutionized my play around the green. So all I got to do is be close to the green, and I have confidence that I will chip up and I will give myself a par look, and I will make some of those pars. I don't need to make them all. I just need to mix in a few during the course of a round, and then I'm solidly in the 80s, and I'm off and running. So that's kind of where my psychology is toward my game. Yours is a little bit different. B's a little bit different. Izzy, yours is a little bit different. And it doesn't matter. Um, my outlook wouldn't work for you, but that's the language that I hear, and that's kind of what makes sense to me. And if we're all listening to kind of what makes sense, we're all going to end up at the same place. Right. And that's by the end of this year playing the best golf that we've ever played. And let's see what that looks like, when the leaves start turning.
Yeah, we need to plan a gathering here this year. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and I think it'd be fun to do a video as well. And we can kind of play around with that idea, and I think it'd be a good idea for you and I, Byrd, to practice it before we have everyone travel across the country.
Yeah. Well, the Strands did, like I said, did 9. 2 of them are on the West Coast. That I know they're private, let alone the distance it's going to take for me to get there.
Monterey, I would love to get anyone out there has a connect for Monterey.
Call us, yeah,
all
man.
The collective, dying to get out there. Be smooth, work some magic. I know you know people.
I know you know everybody, B, and everybody knows you. And then the one I would love to play is Bulls Bay in South Carolina, man. And I mean, I know that's private. They're not taking members. They're not even taking people on the waiting list right now. But I've seen pictures, and it is gorgeous. So I would love to be there. Can't play there unless I know somebody that knows somebody. We'll see what happens. But the other 6, I've played 4 of them now, and I'm gonna take care of the other 2 this year, and I'd love to do it with my friends here. Yeah.
So Izzy, what's been happening in your golf world?
Well, Byrd and I played in that tournament last week on Monday and didn't lose. We talked about that last podcast. Actually, they finally released the photos. We had some pretty cool photos from that trip, but I haven't played since. My wife went back to school this week, so I spent last week and this past weekend just spending time with her before she dived back into her rigorous graduate program that she's in. I did go hiking this weekend, and I have a dog who's about 14 years old, and we've been taking him hiking since we got him when he was 6 months. That was his last hike.
Oh man.
It was we took him on a few over the last couple of months, and he, you could see him slowing down, but we normally hikes, at least where I live, you start at one elevation and you go up, and then on the way back you're coming down. Well, this particular hike, you start at elevation and you go down, and then when you're finishing, you're coming back up. And going down took us about an hour. Coming back up took us about 3. It was tough, and I felt so bad. I'm like, I'm a terrible dog parent, because I mean, he's just trying his best. We'd go 100 yards and then we'd rest, and we'd go 100 yards and we'd rest, and thought we were going to get stuck out there when it got dark, which would have not been. We were out by Peaks of Otter, so not the greatest, but and I was going to try and play this week, but I got back from my trip to my work trip to Nashville today at 4:30, and at 5:15 got a call saying I needed to go to Milwaukee tomorrow. So I'll be in Wisconsin for probably in the next week. But when I get back from that, I will be playing golf. I haven't swung a golf club since we played.
Wow. Well, when you come back this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and my day job, we're off Friday and Monday, so I'm gonna get maybe a round in Friday. We'll see about the rest of the weekend. I want to do some non-golf things. 'Cause my wife will be off for the weekend as well. The following weekend is I'm leading the bachelor life Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if you're back,
I should be back by then.
definitely we can definitely get out there a time or two, man. That'd be great.
We'll do that. Okay,
supposed
PGA
to start.
Championship this past weekend.
Well, I was just going to say it's supposed to start raining here in about an hour, and I think it's going to stop on Monday.
Oh, man.
So it looks like a washout for Memorial Day for us, but hopefully we got a window Sunday. I got the Memorial Day scramble at my club here with 3 of my buddies. So I think we'll get out there this weekend.
Or
And I have
move to Virginia.
Byrd and I'll do our reverse rain dance. It didn't really work last week.
Didn't work. I don't know how. Yeah.
Then I look forward to in a couple of weeks. We have our spring member coming up the weekend after this, so that'll be a topic for a future episode. But Izzy, sorry, man, didn't mean to cut you off. PGA Championship.
So PGA Championship. I think there was a lot of hype going into this tournament, and I would say that Thursday and Friday were for me underwhelming. All of the leader or the most popular golfers were kind of, the top 20 had like three names that had major recognition. It was just a bunch of random people, at least.
Instead of being a who's who, it was a who?
Exactly. Yeah.
What? No Jonathan Vegas? That doesn't ring the bells for you guys?
Coolest name in sport.
He was one of the 3 whose names I recognized.
Right.
Everyone else, I was like, who are these people? Like they just all the big shots just weren't playing well. And then it felt to me that over the course of Saturday, Sunday, the tournament got very exciting, and then it just ended so lackluster. I mean, it was like a pop balloon.
I think it ended exactly the way we all expected it to. Going into the PGA Championship, the golf community was ready to anoint its king. Where we knew he's going to win. He's the greatest golfer, hot as blazes right now. And on Sunday, we anointed the king. It's just a different king.
Wow. Somebody is trying to cover for what they know is coming right now.
Yeah, on the next.
I believe we had several conversations this year. As you can see, I have a little subline on my under my name there, Bye Bye Birdie, in terms of your predictions for the 2025 season.
Right.
Because I think you were singing a different tune about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I remember very distinctly telling you that I hope I am wrong, but it sure looks like that. So I've always been a Scheffler fan.
And a politician, apparently. You're also trying to be a politician with an answer like that.
Not at all, man. I remember what I said. Roll that footage back and get on Apple Podcast and YouTube and go back and see what Byrd said. I felt like he was going to come back to earth, and I felt like he wasn't going to win. And obviously, that hand injury was a lot more impactful for his game than I realized, and a lot of other people. But no, the point that I'm making here is that everybody went into the PGA saying, well, we're ready to anoint the king of golf. He may never lose again. And we left the PGA anointing the king of golf, talking about he'll never lose again. There's a podcast that I think many of us are fans of, and Izzy and I played in their For the Crown, talking about foreplay with Riggs and Trent and Beef and Frankie. their whole collection, man, one of their latest episodes, they're saying he might win the career Grand Slam this year, which would take him winning out, and I think it was, it was Riggs or Trent One on their podcast said, I would be shocked if he doesn't win at least one more of the majors, maybe two.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And I would agree with it too. Obviously I was wrong. And that, I didn't think the hand was that big of a deal. Apparently it was. And I'm going to run to a betting board before the Schwab that we'll talk about here before we get off the show. Looking at that field, come on, man! Like he might win it by Friday.
It might be a repeat of what happened 2 weeks ago.
It could be. It could very well be.
Rest of the field.
I got a 5 that says he does it. But in all seriousness, man, I think there were a lot of really solid predictions coming into the PGA. Well, hell, Rory's going to win the Grand Slam, and coming out of the PGA, people are saying, well, hell, Scotty might win 3 this year. So it's just amazing how people change their tune. I'm one of them. I clearly had it wrong when it came to Chef and what he was going to do this year, but I just thought it was funny that we came in ready to anoint the king, and that's exactly what we did. We just changed people halfway through.
Well, I think we see why he's the number one golfer in the world, and I don't think we need to. If you guys want to, we can. I don't think we need to go through this whole conforming driver testing situation. I mean, look, my point of even bringing it up is that you look at like Rory and Xander, who are part of that, right? And I don't know if that was the issue with Rory or not, that he had to take his driver out of play. It also needs to be very clear, because I've done a lot of reading and a lot of listening about this, that this is in no way, shape, or form cheating. These guys don't need this is something where you just don't realize it until it's tested, and they should just test everybody every week and be done with it. And then it's not even a thing. The language doesn't even say non-conforming. The language says that it's a broken driver, actually, because when the face gets worn down. But anyways, don't need to get into it. I think what it showed is that why Scotty Scheffler is the number one golfer in the world, because he just said, whatever. I'll take another driver. I'll go win the PGA Championship. Right. Don't really need to talk about it. I mean, I think he was more, mad about mud balls and stuff like that than he was about the driver situation.
With good reason. Right. That was unfortunate on Thursday. But it does go to show you the mindset of these two guys. So same thing happens to Rory, happens to Scheffler. Rory doesn't talk to the media for 4 days, and he gets the heck out of Dodge. Scheffler is comfortable enough to get in front of the microphone, and when the reporter asks him, do you think that contributed to you hitting the ball left on the front nine Sunday, he shrugged his shoulders and said, no, I just think that was me. I don't know why I was doing that.
Yeah.
So it kind of reminiscent of the championship last year at East Lake, when he shanked that ball out of the bunker, and then the reporter asked him, why'd you shank? He goes, well, see, it's because I hit it on the hosel. And it was to go that way, he's comfortable. And when you hear, obviously there are a lot of people that get to interview him and talk to him regularly. We're not there yet. He'll be on our show soon enough, when this thing takes off. But, the thing about it is you never know what he's going to say. Obviously he wants to compete. He wants to win. He thinks about legacy and his career. And then sometimes he's like, I leave it in God's hands, and whatever happens, it's already decided. I'm just here to play it out.
He seems healthily detached from the outcome.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Healthy way.
Right. So a couple of things I'd want to make note of. Number one, I happened to look up at the time at 45:23, Byrd actually said I was wrong. So let's make sure that gets written down into the Hall of Fame for the Swing Collective. I got to remember what time it was when you showed the last of my grandbaby's inheritance with that $5 bill, but we'll leave that for the next episode.
Episode 12, 45, 23. Got it.
Yeah, there we go.
Right. I'll get that on a shirt or something for you guys. How about that?
But I think what I would jump on with you there, Bird, a little bit is, I'm real big into context, backstories, the humanism pieces of it. And that's what creates, I'll call it drama, or the that brings us and draws us in. And we can be a close match, and look, we could say things about Rom, and of course, even in his post round interview, you know, some of that's a little bit laissez-faire, but I also just like it if you're not trying to make it world ending. If something bad happens to you on 3 holes where you actually are vying for an opportunity to win. But I'd watched Scotty with Grant Horvath, and I know I mentioned Grant a lot on here. He's my favorite to follow
Same.
because they're full rounds, they're conversational, but he became, for me, more human than at any point in time, and it's got 3.4 million views with just 2 weeks. I think they posted it a week before the PGA, and then he wins in the fashion that he wins, and then you see family, you see his son, you see all these things, and all of a sudden now it just elevates him. And like you've got DeChambeau that was also at least in the conversation, who's also built, sort of revamped the way perception broadly was about him, and I think that's masterful, and I think there's authenticity in it. Same thing for Scotty. So I was actually, and of course, Grant very sort of shyly snuck in about, the things that happened a year or so ago with the arrest. And maybe that's just something, you have to do. People are like, no, don't softball all the way around the course.
Sure.
But my point is, Scotty won me even further beyond just being number one. A shifted foot swing that reminds me of my hitch at the top. I mean, it's a little unorthodox, but the guy went around that course with confidence. I think that's still the word detachment. And the results definitely showed. And yes, I think that's a harbinger of things to come. I don't know. It's like what we could say, Ando, you talked about you felt locked in. And what would it be? It's a micrometer difference in the swing that you shank or the swing that hits Piron, right down the center of the club and right on the sweet spot of the face. And with an injury or anything else, if you're just a micrometer off, your game is going to be off. In his case, I think he's kind of found the rhythm, and I do think there'll be another win or two prior to the end of the year.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be more than that.
I'm going to say it now. We can mark this down. I'm going to kind of go the Bird route. I don't think it will be a major, just because there are so many guys that are good enough to win a major. And I learned my lesson here, saying I thought Rory was going to run away at the PGA.
right.
Any week, you got to remember, it's like the NFL. Any given Sunday, these guys are all good enough to win something. It's not that I don't think Scotty Scheffler's good enough or there's anything wrong. I just think that there's so many other guys that
They're all
have
good.
a day
Yeah.
that can do it.
Well, I think they interviewed Tiger about Scotty, and it was probably not this year. It was probably last year. The Achilles heel, the perceived Achilles heel, and I don't know, perceived. Scotty Scheffler's putting definitely the weakest part of his game, or the less robust part of his game, we'll say. 'Cause he's still 19th in putting, this year on
That's
tour.
insane,
So
yeah.
It's pretty good.
The weakest part of your game, your top 20 is just
he's just number one or in the top 5 in virtually every other category. But Tiger said it pretty succinctly. If Scotty comes out and he putts poorly, then he might get a top 10. If he goes out and he putts average, he wins the tournament.
Yes.
And if he goes out and he putts well, he blows everyone else away. So, I mean, you tell me, Ando, how he putts at Oakmont here in 3 weeks or whatever it is, 4 weeks. You tell me how he putts there, and then I'll tell you if he wins the tournament or not. Because right now the ball striking is just he really has supplanted just anybody else out there of just reliable. Anybody that can go out and basically be, left off the tee for 9 holes and it not torpedo his round. He just collects himself, gets it together, and everything else was so stinking good that he was still right there. And then as soon as y'all know golf, man, is everybody's going to have their adversity in a round. And as soon as Rahm found his, and DeChambeau found his, pretty soon, as Izzy pointed out, it's not even climactic anymore. He wins by essentially 6 if he doesn't have a bogey on 18 that was
Right.
meaningless. You know, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Will he win another major? I don't know. I'm not ready to be superlative on that. It just depends on how everyone else plays and how he puts. But uh, he certainly schooled me, not just at the 45-minute mark at our podcast, man. Can't bet against him because when he's on, he's the most dominant golfer we've seen since Mr. Woods.
And I think I was trying to look it up now. I'm pretty sure that he was in the top 5 putting at the PGA. So
Don't doubt that at
to
all.
your
Well, it's
point, that's
pretty hard to miss an eagle putt from
yeah,
that distance, man.
right.
But no, but I'm
Was
with
that
you.
that par 4? Okay, so I wanted to bring. So I've got an Oculus, which is the
Hmm.
VR headset, and there's a game on there called Golf Plus that's surprisingly realistic for being a game and being VR. Well, every time there's a tournament, they have that golf course in the game that you can play before you have to buy it. Well, they have these challenges, and one of the and normally the challenges for that week have to do with something that happened in the tournament. And one, I got to one where it was Scotty's eagle on.
Oh,
It was on
nice.
Sunday, right before he was it Sunday or was it Saturday? I forget what day it was, where he just kind of went crazy.
Saturday.
Um,
Yeah.
so Saturday. So it's par 4. I tried 100 times to do the same shot. It gives you, when you miss, you have 2 shots to get it in the hole, and if you don't, you restart. And I gave up. It
Mm.
didn't make any sense, and it's a game, so it's like it's kind of helping you in a way. It's not. There's
Yeah.
no perfect reaction to how you swing because your swing's not. It's
It's
not there.
it's almost like you're saying you're not as good as Scotty Scheffler.
I am saying this. I know it's a
Weird.
crazy statement to make, but no, Scotty Scheffler is better than me, and likely he would beat me most times if we played against each other.
Yeah. The question
Probably
is,
take
can he beat us at a
I'd probably
game?
take a couple of them, but
You know, I feel like he would grab the Oculus and shoot 65.
oh,
I mean, that's the guy's 3 for 3, converting 54 hole leads at majors.
Yeah.
And then, I think the other one was he's the first golfer since Seve to win his first 3 majors by 3 or more strokes. I mean, it's kind of, he is the guy since Tiger Woods that looks and smells the most like Tiger Woods right now.
And you might be our resident stat nerd, man. So I'm not going to try to go toe to toe with you, but listening, Noah and I were heading back from Myrtle, so we had to catch the final round on Sirius. And just a quick shout out to the Sirius folks, because I know they listen to us on Apple Podcast and on YouTube. Guys, if we were playing a drinking game where every time you said the Green Mile, I had to take a shot, I would still be drunk in South Carolina. And just because someone hits the ball in the water, you don't have to use the term "he rinsed it" so much. God, I think again that was a little bit overused, but I digress. Man, what?
Shout out to John McGinnis, so I love that guy.
Yeah, but listening to him, and sharing some stats. You mentioned the 3 for 3 with the 54 hole lead in the majors. How about that? He's had the 54 hole lead 8 times in his career, and he's 8 for 8 winning those tournaments. He has 15 overall. 8 times he had the 54 hole lead. So he's never lost the 54 hole lead on Sunday, and the 54 hole leader wins the tournament less than half the time. That's a PGA Tour stat. So and he's 8 for 8. So that says a lot for his ability to close right there. And career, he's the only the 3rd golfer to have 15 wins and 3 majors before the age of 30. And the other 2, maybe you've heard of them, Tiger Woods and Jack Nicklaus. So he's definitely when a lot of times people want to say he might be the next Tiger, and I'll be the first one to hold up my hands and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's not worry so much about anointing the next Tiger Woods, because we might not ever see one again. Yeah. But he's making a case that his career is going to be special. I mean, if he could win a major, it's a lot, man. I know this is not. I'm just making it sound so easy. If he could win a major a year for the next decade,
Mm-hmm.
the man would be knocking on the door at
Mm-hmm.
Tiger for second all time. Tiger would still have a couple ahead of him. That's a long. That's a lot. But I'm just saying he could also pull a Rory and go a decade without winning one. It's the competition is just that good out there.
I think
But
it's unlikely that happens, but
I
you're
think
right. It could. It
you're
certainly
right.
could.
Yeah, for
You know,
sure.
and,
He's
and
trying to make. If he
one
tries
one
to make
one
pasta
other.
every
Oh, go ahead,
it
Izzy.
could. I said if he tries to make pasta every year, it could.
Oh, geez.
Leave the
Well,
ravioli. Chef
you
Boyardee.
don't use a wine glass to roll out your dough. You know, in the spirit of Memorial Day coming up this weekend too, another one I want to point out is that this is the longest stretch I think since '89. We have 10 consecutive wins in the PGA by Americans. So
Yes.
go USA. And
Our tournament.
speaking of the Americans in Team USA, um, I'm really excited. Keegan Bradley said the only way he's going to be on the Ryder Cup team as a player is if he qualifies as a player. He's not going to name himself as a captain's pick. Keegan Bradley's knocking on the door, guys, as a player on that team. He has played some phenomenal golf this year. He's 4 top tens. I think he was top 10 this week in the PGA. I'm not sure. I think he was close, but
He was close.
man, that would be. I just think that'd
Ryder
be.
Cup standings. Anybody got their
Yeah,
Google?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do. He is. I believe he is 13th.
Okay.
He's up 5 spots. He was. I'm sorry. He is 17th. He's up 5 spots. He was 22 before this week. Right now it's Scotty, Xander, Bryson, who, by the way, Bryson DeChambeau is the 3rd best golfer in the world right now. I mean, you look at how he's played in majors.
Yeah.
Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa, Russell Henley are who our qualifiers are right now.
That's a pretty stout group for sure. And shout out to Bryson because Rory's game elevated when he stepped down from his spot, on the PGA board, and I don't fault him for it. He obviously feels a certain way, most likely, about how the whole PGA Live thing went down, and if he wants to call himself a sacrificial lamb, I sure as heck won't argue with him. But he steps down, he kind of declutters his life, and he starts playing good golf. Scotty, golf, he certainly doesn't. He doesn't run a skeleton schedule. He's in the Schwab this week,
Right.
but it seems like it's him, and he's home. For the most part, playing with Grant, but they were down in Texas for that at Chef's home course. But Bryson, the Live Golf, they don't play as often, but the travel's a little more intense. He's got the YouTube ventures going on, and he is constantly shooting that stuff. He's got a pretty full life, and he's not digging ditches. I'm aware of that. A lot of people would love to trade places with him, but he seems to have a lot of other stuff going on that maybe most golfers don't. And he is playing at a caliber. I agree with you. He is certainly in the utmost of the elite, and a guy who's not going to go too long without making some noise at a major, possibly even at Oakmont here in a few weeks.
He gets an extra day a week though, because he's only playing 54 holes, so he has an extra day to do stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I thought what he did waiting for Scotty at the end was also ultra classy, and maybe that's sort of a bridge to what's going to happen, with some of the Live guys that make the team. But yeah, I agree everything there, Bird. And that's what's going to make some of those events as interesting because it brings and unifies, at least for some period of time, and creates that interesting theater that we all love to watch so much. But yeah, I thought that was actually pretty cool. There was one other golfer that waited as well, and I can't remember now who that was, waiting on Scotty after he signed his card.
Yeah, man, and I can picture it. But Bryson was there, and shoot,
It was Keegan Bradley.
Oh, was it Keegan?
Okay.
Yep. That was
Again, the captain of the Ryder Cup team, and what does that tell you about the chemistry on that team?
Well, tells me that made a hell of a pick, and I'm all for it, man. So Bradley, I think, is set the tone. I can't wait till we get later on in our year and we start turning this toward podcast, into a Ryder Cup discussion. But from the moment he's been named the captain, I've loved everything that he's done, and people sure like to make a lot of controversial remarks about that end of full swing when he said what he said, and and I loved his response to that. Oh, I'm sorry, but if you think that's what they needed to get fired up, I bet they were probably fired up already. You can't put bulletin board material up for the Ryder Cup, man. If you need that, you're in the wrong line of work. So but anyway, I agree with you, man. He's running a class act. I love the chemistry that he's setting up. You guys, we love golf so much. We got Memorial Day weekend coming up. You guys making getting in front of the TV to marathon watch the Charles Schwab part of your Memorial Day plans? You guys looking forward to
Potentially, only because it's going to be. I might be in a boat with my TV watching it, floating out of my front door. But
right. Well, man, I looked at the entry list. It's thin. If you're looking for the top 25 golfers in the world, that's for sure. Now, Chef's there.
Yep.
Matsuyama's there.
Fleetwood.
Spieth is there.
There.
Always hoping that he'll do okay. But this feels like the Byron Nelson all over again, doesn't it, Izzy?
It does,
I think
yes,
you made that comment earlier.
I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, what's the course that they're playing at? That is Colonial.
Yeah, they played
Colonial. Yeah.
I'm not super familiar. Is that a difficult track, or is that more one of the?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I mean, just recently redone by Gil Hans. I mean, it's got to be one of the oldest courses in the Texas, if not the country. I mean, it's a classic golf course.
Can they Scotty proof a course these days? How do you do that?
I think he just adapts his game.
Wait, it's in Texas?
It's in Texas, yeah.
Well, Google doesn't know that.
So, I mean, maybe if you put a roadblock up in front of the front gate, you might
no, on Google, whenever it highlights under the Charles Schwab the course, it says Colonial Country Club. If you click on it, it takes you to one in Pennsylvania.
Well, no, it's in Fort Worth. That's
fun.
I think it's if I'm correct, it's on the back door of TCU, actually.
Okay.
So,
to reference. Sorry, go on, Bert.
I might put my garage beer money down on Chef to have a good showing this week, man.
You might lose money if he wins if you do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna save my $5 here. I don't want to spend this $5, but it's a collective.
I can't wait. I can't wait for we're on the collective next week talking about how did Scotty Scheffler miss the cut at Colonial?
because Byrd put 100 down on him. That's how.
Look, that would be if someone put some money on that and that you could somehow bet on that and that happened. That's a retirement plan right there.
Yeah, man. No, I'm with you, man. The odds might be set up. You bet 100 to win 87.
Right.
That's it, man. Well, guys, I hope we can do the anti-rain dance so Ando gets out there. I hope that Milwaukee is everything it can possibly be for Izzy. And B, what do you got going on this weekend, man?
Well, now that you actually reminded me about Memorial Day Friday and Monday, I'm going to try to get some golf in. I need to see what the weather's going to be just somewhere here local.
That's great, man. Well, if local ends up being Southwest Virginia, you let me know, man, because anytime playing with you is a good time.
Yes, sir.
I can play for money. I just want to play with you.
That's awesome. Of course. So see that's how sharks get you.
Yeah,
they woo you with that. Oh, I just want to play, and then why don't we make this interesting?
Make it interesting. You see me play, man. You don't have anything to worry about.
Your game's coming around. I saw some spectacular shots over the last month.
I can't wait. I would get in the sim if not tomorrow, then certainly Friday. And the first thing I'm going to do is see if Clay Ballard is giving me something that I can utilize, because if so, I'll be at Brandermill Country Club in a couple weeks, round 3 of my Richmond League, and I'm coming for points. Right now, I'm sitting about 40th out of 110 or something like that, and I got to see that jump up.
Mm-hmm.
So from now on, guys, here's how I'm going to go out every show. I'm going to go out with a list of things I didn't get a chance to talk about that I wanted to because we ran out of time. On that list is Justin Thomas, the most overrated top 5 golfer in the world of all time.
Okay.
John Rahm, what happened?
Mm.
Rory, is he having a post-career Grand Slam letdown?
Right.
That's
What else
3.
we got?
Number 4 is, how did my car get broadsided in my own driveway last week? Didn't get a chance to talk about that. Number 5, are the Knicks going to make it to the NBA Finals? And I'm out on that, guys.
We're running out of teams that can stop the Knickerbockers. And
I think we have our agenda for next week right there.
There we go.
Set. Although by next week it might be, how in the heck did the Knicks blow that lead? It can be what had happened was my car was, but that I feel like garage beer might have something to do with that. So,
Nope. I had nothing to do with me. I was mowing my lawn when it happened.
Wow.
Mowing my lawn when it happened.
You saw it happen.
Story for another day. I don't want to out anybody publicly on a podcast, but let's just say I know who did it and know them very well. I'm very close to them. So the story next week might be what new car is sitting in Ando's driveway.
That's it. And no member of the collective had anything to do with it. So
that's true. As far as I know.
Right. All right, fellas. Great show. Go out there, hit them straight, and come back and tell us about it in a week.
Will do.
Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Give it a like.
Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Swing Collective. The Swing Collective.
See you soon, everybody.
See you next week, guys. Thank y'all.
Right.